Have you ever really thought about the journey of a single raindrop? I mean, it falls from a cloud, hits the ground, and then, poof, it's gone. But where does it actually go? Well, the fate of that one tiny drop of water holds the key to everything, from fertile farmlands to the water that comes out of our taps. Today, we're diving into the brilliant arc of making sure not a single one of those drops goes to waste. So let's picture a big rainstorm. You see sheets of water just hammering the ground, running down the street, making huge puddles. It feels like this massive abundance of water, right? But the reality is, it's a bit more complicated. And honestly, it's a lot more wasteful than you'd probably think. It sounds like such a simple question, doesn't it? But the answer is absolutely crucial. Because where that water ends up, or more importantly, where it doesn't end up, is the root of a huge challenge for farmers and for our water supplies all over the world. So here's the deal. A massive portion of this precious rainwater is just lost. It either rushes across the surface of the land, that's what we call runoff, and it takes valuable topsoil right along with it. Or it just evaporates, turning back into vapor before any plants can get a drink. These two, runoff and evaporation, they're the villains of our story today. But what if we could outsmart those villains? What if we could actually capture that water right where it falls? Well, that's where this really powerful set of ideas and techniques comes into play, and we're about to break it all down. And the hero of our story? It's called water harvesting. And look, it's not some super complicated idea, but it is absolutely brilliant. It's really just the simple act of collecting rainwater directly. You capture it right where it lands, instead of letting it escape, and then you either store it for later or you help it soak back into the earth to refill those underground water reserves. Now, to get water harvesting right, you've got to follow a few key principles. You can think of these as the fundamental rules of the game for smart water conservation. This is the playbook for turning a problem into a fantastic resource. So what's the game plan? First, you have to use the rainwater you get as efficiently as you possibly can. Second, and this is a big one, you do everything in your power to stop that wasteful runoff. Third, you got to minimize how much water is just lost to the air through evaporation. And finally, you have to be super strategic about how and when you water your crops. These 4 principles, that's our battle plan against water loss. Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. How do these principles actually work in the real world? We're going to look at this amazing toolkit of techniques people use to put them into practice. And it ranges from literally reshaping the land itself to using some pretty cool modern tech. You know, one of the most elegant solutions doesn't involve fighting against nature at all. It's actually all about working with it, specifically working with the natural curves and slopes of the land. Okay, take a look at this. These beautiful flowing patterns you see, they're not just for show. This is called contour farming. See, by plowing along the natural curves of a hill, instead of just going straight up and down, farmers create thousands of tiny dams. Every single furrow acts like a little barrier that slows the water down, stops soil erosion, sometimes by as much as 50%, and gives that water the one thing it needs to be useful: time. Time to soak into the ground. So what happens when a slope is way too steep for contour farming? Well, you have to take a much more dramatic approach. You basically build giant steps for the water to walk down, not run. This right here is terrace farming. It's an ancient technique and it is incredibly effective. These steps, or terraces, turn a steep hillside that's prone to erosion into a whole series of level, farmable plots. So when it rains, the water just gently flows from one level down to the next, watering the crops instead of creating this destructive avalanche of water that washes everything away. And that exact same principle of slowing the flow works on a smaller scale too. On the left, you're seeing simple lines of stones. And on the right, that's a retention ditch. They're both just different kinds of barriers that are built along the land's contours. What they do is interrupt the flow of runoff, forcing the water to pool up and slowly seep into the soil, right where it's needed most. Now, all of these techniques, they can basically be grouped into 2 main categories, and it's all about scale. You've got microcatchment, which is all about harvesting runoff over a really small area, often to help just a single tree or plant. And then you've got macrocatchment, which, you guessed it, is the opposite. It's about collecting water from a huge area, like a whole hillside, and channeling it into a bigger storage spot like a farm pond. Here is a perfect close-up of a microcatchment system. Notice how it works, right? The ground is shaped to create this small catchment area, and it funnels every bit of runoff from the rain directly into a basin where a tree is planted. The water then soaks deep into the soil, creating this stored reservoir right where the roots are. It's so simple, it's low cost, and it is incredibly efficient. And the toolkit doesn't stop there. We've also got modern solutions like drip irrigation, which delivers water one drop at a time right to the plant's roots. That can cut water use by up to 60% compared to old school methods. There are natural solutions like cover crops, which create this protective living blanket over the soil. And of course, there are urban solutions like rooftop harvesting, a super simple way to collect clean water right from our own homes. Okay, so we've seen all these different techniques, but let's zoom out a bit. Why is saving water on a farm in some dry region so important for, well, for everyone, everywhere? It's because these actions create this powerful ripple effect that actually benefits all of us. You see, when water is encouraged to soak into the ground, it's not just watering some plants. It's recharging the deep underground aquifers that supply wells and even cities. By preventing that runoff, we stop soil erosion, which keeps farmland fertile for generations. And that same principle, slowing down the water, also helps prevent destructive floods downstream. It all leads to more food security and provides a reliable source of water for people and animals. Just look at this farm pond. Now, it might look like it's just a reservoir for irrigation, but its most important job is totally invisible. This is a macro catchment system in action. By holding on to this huge volume of water, it allows time for that water to slowly percolate deep into the earth, recharging the groundwater that is a critical resource for the entire region. You know, there's a quote that just perfectly captures the goal of all these different methods. It says, "These techniques transform the land into a sponge, making the most of every single raindrop." I mean, that's it, right? Whether it's contour farming or terraces or just a small basin around a tree, the objective is exactly the same: to turn a hard, impenetrable surface into one giant sponge. And that really leaves us with a final thought. We've seen how people can literally reshape mountains to harvest water, which is just an incredible testament to human ingenuity. So the question for us is, what can we learn from that? What are the small-scale sponges that we can create in our own homes, our gardens, and our communities to make the most of every single drop?